Building up your chest can be very challenging for many guys, especially the upper portion of the chest, but developing your chest will enhance your physique and it's make everyday task like opening a door, getting up off the floor or lifting heavy objects much easier. And unfortunately, many guys are stuck, unable to add any more muscle mass to their pecs. So today, I want to go over some soul tips that are backed by science and provide to help your chest grow. And the first one is to use a bodybuilding bench press style rather than the powerlifting one. Now, I know I might get some flags for this since bench resisting like a power lifter seems to be very trendy lately, but I like to go over some of the different. The main difference between the two bench press styles is that with the powerlifting bench press, would you focus on the keeping the range of motion as the short as possible because that helps you lift the most amount of weight possible. The two main ways you can decrease your range of motion are by either using a wide grip or by creating a more pronounced arc in your longer back to bring your body closer to the bar. On the other hand, a bodybuilding bench press style would still require you to keep your back arched, but much less on the arc in the order to increase the range of motion. That's because for the maximum muscle growth, it's simple better to train your muscles throughout and the full range of the motions thanks to the three main benefits. The first is that a full range of motions on the bench press will produce at the highest levels of the muscle activation. Second, different parts of movements emphasize different parts of the muscles, and by going through a full range of motions, you are able to train the muscles. Is the entirety, is the third, is the beneficial to overload your muscles in either stretch possible and going through a partial range of motion isn't able to do that quiet as well as a full range of motion. So, if your goal is to maximize your muscles growth, a bodybuilding bench pressing style is the more effective than a powerlifting one. Another thing that also helps is to focus on pressing your hands inwards during dumbbell bench pressing and dumbbell hands pressing movements. This is a simple technique adjustment that you can use to maximize chest growth. When you are bench pressing, imagine that you are trying to bring your hands together. This obviously won't happen because the barbell is the fixed and won't bend, but by focusing on squeezing your hands together, you'll increase chest activation because one of the primary functions of your chest is to perform shoulder horizontal adduction, which is basically a fancy way of describing bringing your arms from really weight out at your sides in together towers in the middle of your body. So, by squeezing your hands together on the bar, even though your hands will stay in the same fixed position, you'll increase the tensions placed on your chest. The next time you should do is you being consistently training for some time now is to increase chest workout frequency, or in the other words, simply training your chest more often. This doesn't apply to beginners because you are new to the gym. Research shows that you only have to train each muscles just once per week for optimal gains. So, as a beginner, you can follow a typical prop split by, for example, training chest, shoulder, and triceps on Monday, legs on Wednesday, and back and biceps on Friday. You can also spread the training volume out over more sessions and just focus on one muscle group per day. The point is that as a beginner, hitting each muscle just once a week is enough to grow. However, once you have passed the beginner stage and you can no longer increase the weight you are used almost every workout, you will need a higher training frequencies to maximize gains, as shown by the 2016 systems review and the meta-analysis. The research concluded that training twice a week promoted more muscle growth compared to the once a week. Another analysis found similar results, attributed much better muscles and straight gains for each additional workout per muscles per week. Even when the total training volume was similar between the groups that training each muscles more frequently outperformed the ones that cram the same numbers of sets and reps into fewer sessions throughout the week. Now, whether you should train your chest 2, 3, or even more times per week depending on your particular situation and how much training volume you currently do per workout. Some people recover faster from their works out than others, and some people need a more overall volume per week to stimulate chest growth. But overall, as intermediate or advanced lifter, it's ideal to train each muscles at least twice per week. If you've been doing that, your chest still isn't growing, you can try to add a third chest day. This should help because as you get closer to your genetic muscle building potential, you'll have to find ways to increase weekly volume to make additional gains. Another thing that many people do wrong is they don't go low enough on about the dumbbell presence. In the dumbbell presence, many people only lower the weight down until R is just about parallel to the floor, and then sometimes they won't even get to parallel before pressing back up. It's important to understand that when you perform a pressing exercise to look out portions of the moment and parallelly dump your triceps instead of your chest, which is more engagement during the lower portion of the press. So, if you only lower the dumbbells halfway down, you are not going to optimally stimulate your chest. Instead, you are going to place most of emphasis on your triceps. So, make sure to full lower the weight unless you have some shoulder problems that lead to the pain when you break the bar or dumbbells too loud. Otherwise, if you have a healthy shoulders, you should try lowering the bar until it in touch your chest. When you train with the dumbbells, you can actually lower the weight even further. So, making sure you take advantage of that. If you're trying to add muscles to your pecs, the next chest growth tip is very important for those of you that you are stuck at a plateau. You'll want to alternate the amounts of weights the reps that you do for your major chest exercise. Researchers suggests that training with a wide range of different rep targets produce more muscle growth than always sticking with the standard 8 to 12 reps per set. For example, in a study published in Alternative Journal of Sports, Mason researchers divided men into the two groups. One group performed a consistent rep resistant training routine where they performed each set for 8 to 12 reps. Meanwhile, the other group performed a very rep routine. Participated in those groups switched up the Red Rangers each worth out. So they would perform 8 to 12 reps on one day, then 20 to 30 reps the next day, and finally only 2 for 4 reps on the following training day. Both groups did this for 8 weeks. And even though both groups gained a significant amount of strength in the muscle mass, the researchers note the muscle growth effective size were more favorable for the various group over the constant group. While the difference between the groups weren't huge, and the researchers concluded that both options can be affected for muscle growth based on the studies. It's in the variant your Red Rangers has a slight advantages. This fits very well with the person experience, and it makes sense because the data shows that you need a variety of Red Rangers to maximize growth in the all types of muscle fibers. Remember, you have a time slot switch muscle fibers that you are more responsible for endurance-based activated sets. Meanwhile, you'll develop more resistance to fatigue from the high reps, slow weight sets. My personal recommendation that has worked well for me is to stick to one rep ranger for a few weeks before switching to a different rep ranger, as that will give you enough time to master the rep ranger and get stronger at it before you switch. My favorite rep rangers to switch between are a low 3 to 4 reps, a moderation 6 to 10 reps, and a high 12 to 20 reps. Another tip is to not go overboard with inclined presence. It's all too common for someone to have a lagging upper chest because in almost all lifters the upper chest is underdeveloped compared to the lower chest. The common advice for this issue is to just raise the incline on the bench to put extra emphasis on the upper chest. And even though this is a good strategy, many people go overboard with the angle because they think the more inclined the bench is, the more they'll hit their upper chest. But a step incline isn't necessarily better for upper chest development or the chest growth. In general, for example, a recently in 2021, studies look at the effects of the 5 different bench pressing angles on the muscles activation. This angle included 0 degrees or flat, 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. The results showed that an inclined angle of the 30 degrees was able to produce greater activation of the upper portion of the chest. However, the results also showed that inclining the bench higher than the 45 degrees, producing a significantly higher shoulder activation. while decrease chest activation. And the funny part is that most gym equipment manufacturers haven't catch up to the science. After all, this is the pretty news. 2021 studies saw most of the fixed incline barbell bench present machines that you see in the gyms have to step on the angle to maximize chest activation. If that's the case in your gym, which it probably is, recommend you take one of the regular adjustable bench and set it up at about a 30-degree angle inside of a squat rack. Another thing that should do to help your chest grow is to use cables, especially performance cable presses. You see, one of the limitations of the barbell and dumbbell presses is that you push your hands straight up instead of the inwards. And if you squeeze your hands together like we talked about earlier, it definitely helps to target the chest, but it still only creates an isometric contraction. Meanwhile, cables allow you to incorporate the horizontal adductions compartments that we were talking about earlier automatically throughout the entire movement, because your hands are literally being pulled apart. Cable chest present also provide other unique benefits. For example, cables allow you to train your chest throughout a full range of motion. Cables also provide a more favorable stress curve, where the resistance is the same throughout the entire exercise. And cable exercise allow you to take smaller steps up in the way that you choose. This is beneficial because sometimes you won't able to jump up in the dumbbell weight by the 5 pounds in each hands, but you will able to slightly up the weight on the cable presence. This is why it's encouraged you to mix some cable presence exercises into your routine. With that said, cable chest presence should be done seated or lying down. If you stay while doing them, the weight will be pulled you back and you are going to be challenged more so with stabilizing your body rather than actually training your chest. The next tip is to upgrade your flights. Most people perform flights with the dumbbells on a flat or inclined bench with their hands in a neutral position. And even though this is totally fine and it will help with your chest develop, you can get an added benefits by also performing cable chest flies with your hands in pronounced positions, so your thought would be facing each other instead of your plans facing each other. Believe it or not, when your poles face each other, the chest muscles is a disadvantageous position from a mechanical standpoint because the muscle fibers of the chest don't have a direct line of pull. By maxing a cable flies with your poles facing down, you can train your chest from a position that makes it easier for your chest muscles to fire from. Keep in mind, you don't have to give up regular flies with your pulse in a neutral position, but it's the great to mix and this variation with your pulse down as well. Also, there is a reason why I keep especially referring cables when it comes to flies, and that's because cable flies have a more favorable resistance curve than on dumbbell flies. When you use dumbbells, the bottom portion of the fly requires a lot of effort, but as you get closer and closer to the top of the movement, you lose almost all the tensions on your chest. Using cable fixings, this keeping the tension of your chest the whole time. Finally, I said the most important tip for last, and that's to take sure you are consistently trying to increase the weight load that you can lift for a particular rep ranger that you are targeting. Without applying progress overload, you won't able to add much muscles onto your chest past those initial beginners stage. So regardless of which rep ranger you are targeting, you need to use a weight load that's challenging, and you need to try to increase the weight load over time. Even increasing the weight by the 5 pounds is a huge step forward if you have been training for a while. Upping your weight by just 5 to 10 pounds can take weeks or maybe even months. But by being consistent, those little increases will add up to big gains over the time. Positivity your barbell and the dumbbell pressing exercises towards the beginning of your workout, and try the variations rep strategy that talk about from earlier to help you build up your pressing strength. Doing that in combination with a good diet where you are talking in the no protein should lead to the muscle growth. So that about grabs it up, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also, if you are stuck right now and you are having troubles adding muscles, it maybe have just much to do with your diet as it does with you are doing for your works out.